Hey everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to question and answer session number 9. So we've got 37 questions here to cover, but I do want to say a big thank you to everyone that has helped me reach my new milestone of 10,000 subscribers. Never thought I'd hit this point here, but did it in less than 3 years, so must be doing something right, and I'm certainly glad that you guys are enjoying it. And so definitely want to say thank you to all my supporters, the subscribers. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, do hit that button. It does make a difference. And as I said, we're going to do 37 questions here. This is sort of a thank you. Answer the things that you want to know. So these come from 31 different people, and it breaks down into 3 categories. We got music, 32 questions, channel, 1 question, and personal. There are 4 questions, so that's how that goes. And so just to catch people up here that might be new to my channel, don't know this already, I am a licensed registered architect in the state of New York. So the YouTube thing is just for fun. It's a thing that I like to do, connects with you guys out there. And of course, I'm always thinking doing music. So to put it into a channel format was kind of nothing big for me. So yeah, I've been collecting music for 33 years, started back in 1989. I have over 11,000 CDs and over 200 box sets. Certainly a lot of videos out there on my music collection and whatnot, so if you want to tune into that, that's great. And as always, I am going to do my best to pronounce everybody's name right, but I'm quite sure I'm going to mess up on a few of these, so I am apologizing up front regarding that. We are kicking off with music-related questions, 32 of these, and we start with Raphael V, or Raphael 5, however you want to go with that. Why do you prefer CDs over vinyl? So big question right off the top there. I guess the big thing would be is that I grew up with CDs. That is the format that I'm most connected with. I mean, I did start early on in the mid 80s with cassettes and moved into CDs at that point, but CD is really where I started collecting. 1989, the CD was booming at that point. And it's also the widest medium. There is far more available on CD than in any other format. Now, there is plenty of stuff that's on vinyl that never got pressed to CD, and so I do collect that as well. But also with CDs, you don't get the hiss and pop and stuff like that that's on it. More stuff that's on a CD. It's got longer times. And regarding sound, I believe that CDs are just as good as vinyl. I know there's a lot of you guys out there with vinyl that would completely disagree with that and whatnot, but we're going off of my ears here. So for me, that is at least the reason why I prefer CDs over vinyl. But it's not that I don't like vinyl. I do collect vinyl as well. I just like the medium for the ease of it, CDs. All right, Michael Maurer asks, what do you tell people when they ask why you buy physical media? So, another big question right off the top here. For me, the way that I always sort of approach it is that I'm amassing a library. I'm not just collecting to collect. I'm not trying to hit a certain number or anything like that. I don't do blind buys where I don't know what I'm getting. Every CD album that I've bought that's in my collection is something I searched out and wanted. If I tried it, didn't like it, I'd probably then sold it off used at that point. But yeah, I'm trying to amass a library so that anything that I want, I have access to. No different than anyone else that collects books, like shoes, whatever it might be. People that go out and drink a lot at the bars. You know, people are spending money in different ways. I choose to spend it on music, physical format music, and I keep it that way. So that's at least what I generally rationalize it with when people ask me. Okay, another big one here from Daniel Lothgren. Do you ever think you'll hit a point that you'll be done collecting music, and or is it a lifestyle? And I would definitely say yes, it is completely a lifestyle, but it's also my passion and what I'm into. So no, I don't think I'll ever hit that point. I have mentioned before that it's getting harder to find albums and things that I don't have, but it doesn't mean it's not out there. It just means that of the main big bands that I follow, I may well have collected everything they've released officially. But then, yeah, there's always going to be stuff out there. Case in point, I just found the band Nectar. It's a band that was formed in Germany, but it's actually made up of Englishmen, and prog rock group, really good stuff. I've known of them. I've checked them out before. It didn't click, but I was in a music store. heard their stuff. It was explained to me that that's who it was. I decided to buy some, and I'm really enjoying it, you know. So here's a band that I don't own any, or didn't own anything before. I just bought this one album, but they're a band from back in the late 60s, early 70s, getting their start, and I've got a whole catalog now that I can search out if I'm interested in. And I figured that's going to keep happening. I will keep discovering bands that I may have been aware of and or maybe didn't know anything about, and I'll have stuff like that to do. And hopefully a lot of archival stuff will keep getting released. All right, Juan T asks, are there any albums released in the last 10 to 20 years that you consider a masterpiece? And that one really had me scratching my head. And yes, you guys may not agree with me, and that's totally okay. And I'm talking about the album in and of itself, not comparing it to past albums by the band. So in this case, I'm going to show you an album from Styx that I think is a masterpiece, but I'm not saying that it's any better than past classic albums like The Grand Illusion or any of their other stuff from back in the day. Brand new one, in fact, Crash of the Crown 2021. This was my #1 album from 2021. Personally, I think it is a masterpiece. It is a classic. I love this thing from start to finish. I have enjoyed it since it came out, and it has just grown on me over and over and over. Another one, Rick Wakeman, The Red Planet 2020. This one here, all instrumental, but again, for whatever reason, that album just clicked with me. It is perfect from start to finish. That's kind of how I determine if it is a classic and or a masterpiece. Do I love the thing start to finish? Is there not a single song on there that I would take off? And do I continue to listen to it years after it's been released? A little hard to say about that Styx one, but you know, 2 years on from the Rick Wakeman. And the next one up, definitely Pink Floyd, Endless River from 2014. Instrumental except one track at the end that has words on it. And I love it start to finish, and it just grows and grows and grows. And one final one here, Deep Purple, Now What from 2013. So in all cases, I love the guitar playing, if there are any vocals on it. I love other additional instrumentation that's on it. So it goes beyond just being good albums. There is stuff within each track that I really love. Personally, for me, those are 4 of my current favorite albums from past years that have just grown in stature in terms of my feelings on them. Okay, Charlie 10 asks, if you had a one-way ticket to Mars, what would be one CD you would take with you? Now, this is just simply, you know, my favorite all-time CD kind of thing. I've been asked that before, but I liked this idea. Instead of the desert island, what would you take? It's if you were going to Mars. And I'm a space fanatic, so that one really got me. Pink Floyd, Division Bell, 1994 album. I think it's I think it's classic. It may not be the heyday of them, and I would say of their older stuff with Roger Waters, I would always pick Animals. But I absolutely love that album. It's an album that came out during my era of collecting and growing up and so forth. So for me, it's a big album that made a huge impact on me. And you know, we're all different. We all start at different times, so we're going to have those different favorite albums. But that album, I can listen to no matter what time it is. When I pull it out, start to finish, it's always great. But it's got me thinking, since I just showed you this one, Rick Wakeman, The Red Planet, maybe I would take that one with me because it is a new classic, and certainly the concept of it is all about Mars, so pretty cool there. Robert Watt asks, do you visit record fairs? In the past, yes, certainly. When I was growing up in Florida, I hit them up a number of different times. That was a big way to collect. But in New York City, I have to say, I don't remember ever seeing any come into the city. There may have been some, just weren't promoted or whatever, I guess. But when I did see them, they were always happening outside of New York City proper, Long Island and or New Jersey. And now that I live in New Jersey, because just bought this house, looking to get all that set up back there into a beautiful music room. If I see some, I will certainly search them out, but I have found some really amazing record stores that right now have me feeling, you know, very good, like I don't need to necessarily search out other things like record fairs for collecting, but, you know, as time goes on, we'll see. All right, next one here, we've got CADWA. It's all got periods in it, so I don't assume I'm supposed to pronounce that, but wants to know, what is your favorite, and he's got 4 things that he's asking here, so 4 separate questions. Your favorite MTV Unplugged performance. Now, this one might shock you guys, maybe it won't shock you guys. I'm going to say Poison or Rat, who most of you maybe don't even know did Unplugged on MTV. But it was also just because the music was so different. A lot of bands that they would have on there had hits with acoustic things or something, or were veering in that direction. So, you know, it made sense that they would appear on there. But having Poison or Rat on there doesn't really make sense. But I loved it, the very, you know, difference of it. What is your favorite album by? In this case, Pink Floyd, they're asking. So, I picked for Desert Island the Division Bell, but I have to say my all-time favorite album by them would be Animals. And I know that might sound contradictory, but yeah, I'm just going with it. Favorite album by Pink Floyd is Animals, but if I'm going to a desert island, I think I could listen to over and over and over the Division Bell. So who knows? Maybe that means I should be picking the Division Bell, but this is how my mind works, and you guys are learning that. All right, what's your favorite David Bowie song? Rebel Rebel, love that one. And your favorite band? If you haven't already figured it out by some of these answers, Pink Floyd. Okay, Greatest Music Fan asks, what is your favorite album by Metallica? This got 3 questions here too. All right, so I really thought about this. Favorite album by Metallica. And I wasn't going to go with the Black Album from 1991, but that is my first album from Metallica. And you know what? There's a lot of nostalgia and good feelings in it. And I don't really care as much for albums that came after it. And I didn't grow up with the albums that came before it. But I do really like Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. But when all was said and done, I went with the Black Album. Favorite Warlock album, Triumph and Agony, 1987. I absolutely love Doro and all her solo stuff. I've met her, she's great, and I love that Warlock album too, but I have to give a shout out specifically to her solo material. All right, in Dream Theater, my favorite album is Train of Thought from 2003, although I almost went with their latest brand new album, which is really, really good. All right, Thunderstruck Triple Z asks, what are some of your favorite single disc compilations? And I did pull these out because I wanted to show them to you. Here's one that is an all-time favorite. It's fairly new, 2017, Deep Purple, A Fire in the Sky. And I selected this not only because I love single disc compilations, which is why the question's being asked here. It's got 20 tracks, and it goes from the most present, newest, all the way back to the oldest. So it kicked off with Hell to Pay, which just happened to be a really great song off of this album here. And then they cover all of their different eras on here, but they focus a lot on the newest stuff too, so they don't really shortchange anyone. And we get everything on here, including stuff from the reunion in the 80s. We also get stuff from David Coverdale on here, and we go all the way back to the song Hush on here. So really great collection there. Love that. I can listen to it. Any Deep Purple compilation that doesn't kick off with Smoke on the Water, I'm pretty good for. Okay, Foreigner, The Very Best and Beyond. This one here came out in 1992, I think it was. And it's got 3 brand new tracks at the beginning and then all the classics. And it was a reunion when Lou Gramm came back into the band. So it's all Lou Gramm tracks. But I do really love those 3 brand new songs on it. That's always another key for me. I like single disc compilations with new tracks. Now, the first one I showed you doesn't have any. And this next one doesn't have any either. But Queen, classic Queen from 1992. They've since deleted that as a title and got various different greatest hits and best ofs out there. But that one there was the very first compilation I ever bought by them. I had Queen Innuendo first. And maybe even before that, Queen The Game on vinyl. That was a hand-me-down from one of my older brothers. But first album I bought by them was Innuendo, and I was pretty into that. And the day after I bought it, they announced Freddie Mercury died. And I got deep into Queen because everyone was playing Queen, and I went out shortly thereafter and bought this. So they kind of go hand in hand for me, but very good. Next question comes from Audrey Jo Clinton. 2 questions here. When you get a broken case, what do you do to replace it? So obviously I change it, but I think that's pretty apparent. I think what this person's asking is, how do I go about it? And I don't order cases online. Number one, they can come cracked and broken too. Also, really, the cases that they sell online today are really flimsy and do not have the strength and the solidity that older cases from the 80s and the 90s do. So what I do is, when I'm at these record stores and they've got sections of CDs for 99 cents, I will go in and pick out 3 or 4 of those that I don't care about what the band or artist is, as long as the case is in really good condition. And then I use those. I take out the inserts and I save them and I swap out cases later on. But also what I do is I have 11,000 CDs. So if I need a case immediately, I just open up a box, find one in there that I don't listen to often, use its case, and then if I ever come back to that disc, I will swap it out at that time. And that's just so that I feel good about it when it sits out. I like to display my things when I'm listening to them and so forth. So I don't want to stare at a cracked case either, just like you. All right, and the next question, do you use any protective sleeves on Digipacks? I do not. I just stick them in. I'm very careful with them. I know that the cardboard can get rubbed, but I try to be as careful as I can with it. For me, these things don't have to be, they're not precious in that regard, but I do try to be as careful as I can be. If a disc or a Digipack gets worn based on its use by me and the love that I have shown it by listening to it, so be it. What I don't like is buying one that comes damaged. That really bothers me because I didn't do the damaging. Somebody did it before me and I shouldn't be receiving it that way. But that's for another time. All right, Q David Q asks, when you get a used CD, do you clean it? First of all, I don't buy ones that need cleaning. That's just my thing. I don't like that. So, but yeah, occasionally you get a disc, you flip it over, you see a fingerprint is on it. I usually wipe it off in the store to make sure it's going to come off and it's not glue or something, something sticky in it. But nothing really more than that. And yeah, occasionally, you're in that really dirty old record store and you buy a disc and the case is just covered in dust and whatever. And yeah, I will lightly clean it. I'll take a little, glass cleaner on a paper towel or something. Very little amount is what I'm trying to say. And wipe it all down and that sort of thing. But as general, when I get used discs, no, they just go right into the collection. I'm pretty particular when I'm buying things, so I'm trying to buy things that are already clean, pristine, good condition, and so forth. No cracks in the cases, etc. But, of course, you don't always get that. All right, Lewis Carty asks, would you ever make a Discord profile for your viewers to chat and share music? And I was on Discord briefly to chat with someone. It's kind of an odd platform for me. I know that it's used for video gaming and stuff like that, so I will say I've never really given it much thought. A couple other people asked some various questions about making playlists on either Spotify or something so that you guys could tune into what I'm listening to. So right now I don't have a Discord profile. I don't have Spotify streaming. I'm on Apple Music. But enough of you guys have asked these questions, it's kind of made me think about and contemplate it. So I need a little more direction. I'll have to do some research on it. But if it's something that doesn't cost anything, I might consider it. If it's something that's going to cost money, unless it's going to bring in money, I probably wouldn't do it. But I'm going to look into these things. And so feel free to go ahead and make some additional recommendations on this topic. If you guys are interested and want to let me know how to proceed with it, that would all be good, because I certainly would consider it. I do have a music video playlist on my channel of about 20 plus videos, maybe more. Maybe I've gotten up to 25 or 30. If you want to pretend you're watching Headbangers Ball or some great metal show, I've got a playlist for it. I call it Metal After Midnight. You know what? I'll leave a link in the description, I guess, for you guys for that one. Okay, let's see. All right, here's an interesting one. Adam asks, have you ever cried while listening to music? And you know what? I am man enough to say, yes, I have. And I'm going to give you two songs here that make me tear up a little bit when I hear it. And to be quite honest, I have no reason why it is. Both songs, listen to the lyrics, but it's also the music. It isn't just lyrically that's doing this. It's music. It's a combination of everything. Ramones, Poison Heart, and Michael Monroe, Hammersmith Palais. Look those up. Again, Ramones, Poison Heart, and Michael Monroe, Hammersmith Palais. Try and see if you can figure out why it is that they will make me tear up. All right, Mikhail Bowden asks, why so many bands are making return to form albums lately? I think it's a combination of things, actually. I mean, it's nostalgia. It's from where these bands come from. It's a good throwback. Throwbacks are always popular these days. Archival material seems to sell better than brand new material. So I think a lot of bands are just reverting back to their roots. It's what they know best. It's what they did. And to make that return to form album makes the fans happy. It's got to be easier than coming up with something new, like completely different, right? So I think it's also an easy thing for them to do. It's just a combination of those things. But it's also, everything is cyclical. Everything comes back into fashion. So you wait long enough, whatever it was you were doing originally that may have fallen out of fashion, like glam metal, back in fashion, right? Okay, next up we've got Pablo asking how I plan to eventually display my whole collection. So I kind of referenced it at the beginning, all those boxes there, each of those have 90 CDs in them. There is 103 of them, not all right there, but some additional places throughout my house. And I'm having custom millwork made, some shelving and cabinetry, like bookcase style stuff made for that area out there. I know I keep pointing, sorry. And I'm going to be taking them all out of the back boxes and displaying them. So I am working to get all of my music out and on display and kind of go from there. I'm not going to be able to get all 11,000 CDs out up front, but I'm going to get a big chunk of it and kind of feel the house, live with the house for a while, and then build more accordingly. So that's how I'm going to do it. All right, CD Man 40 asks, do you keep multiple versions of albums like after it's been remastered? And yes, I do. I mean, it's the bottom line. I'm kind of thinking about it because what I've learned is a lot of times just with the remastering, it's a different master. Used to just be volumes were turned up on things, but now things get tweaked in the mastering and you can hear stuff in it you couldn't hear before. And there might have been, maybe we call it a more muddy mix or darker mix, and they brightened it and they've cleaned it up and you can hear the individual instrumentation now. So sometimes I listen to that and I like that, but it's like sometimes I want to go back and listen to that one that I grew up on. So I've been keeping them certainly for all of the glam metal bands and stuff like that I grew up in the late 80s and early 90s. I've just been hanging on to them. You're not going to make any money off selling those things for the most part, I mean, to a used record store, and I don't want to do it individually. So yeah, I've just been keeping them. All right, Stefan the Truth Seeker is asking, what are your favorite live albums? A lot of you guys know I'm not a big live album person, but I really had to think about this and scratch the head. And you know what? I came up with 5 of them. I'm not saying these are greater than anything else, and there's certainly a lot of classic live albums out there. Kiss Alive, the first one. There's a lot of other ones out there that, are classic live albums and stuff like that. I've just picked 5 that I really like, that I listen to, that I don't mind them being live. In fact, I like the live sound of these. So, ZZ Top, Tonight at Midnight from 2016. So I was actually kind of surprised because it has now been around for 6 years. But when I first was picking it, I was kind of like, geez, that's a really new one to be picking here. Bruce Springsteen, Live in New York City from 2001. Really liked that. That one surprised me how much I liked it. And it kicked off with a lot of songs at the time that I didn't know by Bruce Springsteen, which I think was a draw in for me. It didn't just kick off with a famous song or something. Guns N' Roses Live Era from 1999, and I have heard that one's heavily doctored. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it sounds good and I like it. Kiss Alive 3 from 1993, like that one a lot. And this one here, I think this was the first ever live album that I bought, Ramones Loco Live 1991. So that was just one where I looked at it and said there's more hits on here that I can get from a live album than buying a best of or an album, studio album from the band. So I bought that because I think it had like 30 songs on it, 29 songs or something. Loco Live 1991. Love that one still to this day. Good memories. All right, JJ asks, regarding used CDs, what kind of things make you reject it based on condition? So first off, scratch discs. Also, the other thing, bent, crimped, or water damaged booklets. Any of that stuff, it goes back. Now, on occasion, when the album is very rare and hard to find, I will buy it if there's a crimp or something like that, but it's kind of minor because I want the music. But in most cases, if I can get it in another way, I just don't buy it. I put it back. Can't stand those things. Don't mind the broken cases. I can replace those, but damaged booklets, that's a no-no. Okay, Andres from Greece asks, are there any musicians that you like their solo work, but not so much from their main band? Miles Kennedy of Alter Bridge. I discovered him through Slash and his solo work, and I like Miles Kennedy's solo work, but I don't own any Alter Bridge. So that's who I came up with for that. Jamie and Anne's Adventures asks, do you like the band Ween, and if so, what is your favorite album? And I don't follow them today, but back in the day, I did like them. Chocolate and Cheese, 1994. That was probably their biggest album, but that was a big album at the time. I bought that. I saw the band live as well, got to meet the guys. Dean and Gene, I think are their name. Very nice guys. So I did enjoy that. I've often thought about getting back into the band because I see them. They're still releasing stuff to this day. But yeah, that was the album that got me into them. I explored them, and I followed them for a couple more albums after that into the late 90s. But still have Chocolate and Cheese in the collection, and I love that album cover. I mean, that's got to be part of the reason that it was so popular, but if you don't know the album cover, look it up. You'll like it. All right, James Levin, what is your favorite Fates Warning album? Parallels, 1991, and I have to say, the first time I heard it, I thought it was Queensryche. Thought Jeff Tate was singing on it, which I then said, who the heck is this? No, it wasn't Queensryche. Oh, it's this band Fates Warning. Let me pick that up. And I loved going into record stores and hearing things and being able to ask what it was and then be able to buy it. And you know, you walk into a record store today and they're playing pop music or whatever. They're not playing good rock and metal and stuff like that we love. So it's a little harder for us to discover new bands that way. William Tyndale asks, what is your favorite year in music? And I really couldn't narrow it down, so I'm going to give you 3 here. I would often say 1983. It was an amazing year, bands coming out, metal bands, things breaking, new wave of British metal, heavy metal was going on at that time, but you also had new wave and you had just classic metal albums coming out. So 83 was a great year for a lot of famous classic albums. I love that year, but I didn't grow up during that year. That's something me looking back on it. And I thought about 1989 because that's the year I started and Dr. Feelgood came out and stuff like that from Motley Crue. But I ended up deciding 1990. Poison, Flesh and Blood, Rat, and Detonator, some of my absolute favorite albums are from 1990, and that was a big year for me. Brand new, I was just getting into music and whatnot. But oftentimes when I look back at it and people have asked in the past, I've said 1991. I love 1991. It was the last big year of glam metal. Even though grunge came in towards the end in the summer, fall of that year, glam was still huge, and so many great albums. Underground albums where a band put out one album that year, brand new, and they didn't survive because of grunge. So there was just a plethora of glam metal coming out during that time frame. My favorite genre, obviously, so I love that. All right, Willie Trotter asks, name your top 5 glam metal bands. And I actually asked for 10, but I didn't want to bore you with all 10, so I'm going to do 5. And coming in at number 5, Enough's Enough. Number 4, Slaughter. 3, Warrant. 2, Poison. Number 1 would be Rat. Now, I thought about having in there Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, because they did all come up during the glam metal era. In my opinion, they are glam metal bands, although they rose well above it. And since they're so big and outside of that genre these days, I decided not to include them in traditional glam metal. Some of you might even say Rat's not part of that, but I think they are. Okay. Christian Osario asks, do you listen to music in other languages? And I do, not a lot. There are certain bands that have sung in other languages and I've gotten into them and I listen to them, but generally also because they have some English language stuff and then I wanted more, and so I spread into their non-English language stuff. So Loudness from Japan, I love them, actually own nearly everything by them. Trust, which is a French band, and you probably know them because Anthrax covered one of their songs translated into English, Antisocial. A big hit for them. Cat, K-A-T, Polish band. Bought a box set of their stuff. Most of it, I think, is in Polish, but a few of the albums were in English, and I started with that and went backwards. Rammstein, obviously, sing a lot in German. They did do some English language stuff in the mid-90s when they got really popular, but you know, can't understand half of what they're saying anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I don't mind listening to non-English speaking language bands. I'm not a big lyric person. I'm a music person who loves the melody, the groove, all that sort of stuff in it. But being English is my native language, I do tend to lean towards all English speaking bands. All right. Lana Terame, apologize if I'm saying that wrong, asked a really great question, and the reason I am wearing this shirt, she wants to know, I wear a lot of music shirts, so what band do I have the most of? And if you didn't guess, it's AC/DC. I counted, I didn't really know. Had to think about it. I have 6 AC/DC shirts. So yeah, And I do love AC/DC, but you know, you'd think it'd be Pink Floyd or something like that. But I just go based on what I like the look of. I have to like the band. But I looked at a lot of Pink Floyd shirts, and I don't often like the way the shirts are done. It's not that I don't like the art of Pink Floyd, it's just how the shirts are done. And a lot of time, it turns out, I guess, I have liked the logos and things by AC/DC maybe more than any other band. So, and also my first concert was AC/DC, and I still have that shirt, although I cannot fit into it anymore. But I did count it, even though I can never wear it for you guys. And G. Lee asks, along with CDs and vinyls, do you also collect things like books from your favorite bands? And yes, I do. I've got this one here, Red by Sammy Hagar, an absolute amazing read, start to finish. This guy, you know, has so much knowledge from all his other business ventures and what he's done, and he covers all of his stuff from early on, Montrose, into all the different projects, solo, Van Halen, out of Van Halen, back in Van Halen, etc. It was just a great read. I couldn't put it down. I love books like this, Black Sabbath, Never Say Die. It's just a like an accounting of their history from 79 to 1997. I've got a lot of books like these, and this person, Gary Sharp Young, the Sharp Young is the last name. Really good stuff. Check that out if you want to get some good history, deep history on your favorite bands. And I like things like this. I got this AC/DC Treasures book where inside there's replica memorabilia type stuff in there, and I love books like these. So it's gives you the history and everything and cool stories, but it's also got a lot of cool memorabilia, and I love memorabilia. All right, so we've got one channel question, channel related. 100% JDV asks, why have you stopped several of your series, in particular asking about favorite albums by year, and if you like this band, try this one. So the real bottom line is they just aren't getting the views. They were ones that I thought would be really popular. Maybe the first one I did was really popular, and after that, the views have just continued to drop off. So I'm not saying I will never go back to them, but they just weren't getting views. And I did throw out a thing in a previous one of these maybe channel updates or something, and I asked about a couple of these, like favorite albums by year, and I really didn't get much response. So I don't think I will be continuing on those, but never say never. All right, and then there's 4 personal ones here. Sunnyside Up 49 asks, do you collect physical media for movies? And up until my move, I would have said yes, absolutely. And I still have a huge collection. But in the last couple of years, I've really switched over to just purchasing a digital copy if I want it, because I have noticed with streaming, you know, it's available one time on this stream service, and then it's not, then it's over here, then it's nowhere. So certain movies that I really love, I've just gone ahead and bought a digital copy of. And Frank Sinatra, and I love how it's spelled because it's spelled with a PH instead of an F and a Z instead of an S for Sinatra. Are banker boxes all standard sizes? Generally speaking, yes, they are if they are real banker boxes, because it's designed around standard size paper and envelopes that were originally used just by bankers, but anyone doing accounting is really the thing. The box should be 10 by 12 by 15. That's in inches. 10 by 12 by 15. Now I've looked out on the internet and I've seen that there are like ones that are 10 and an 8, 10 and a quarter. If they're fractionally right around 10, 12, and 15, okay. But if you're talking about 11, 13, 16, then no, it's not. And there's plenty of them out there. Banker boxes, it's a standard thing. So if it's not called that and you're getting different dimensions, it's not a banker box. All right, and I've made a full video on that, and might as well leave a link in the description for anyone who's interested, how to make those boxes, which are the white ones that you see behind me. Anyone sitting here going, what the hell's, why is this guy asking about a banker box? It's the ones that are behind me. I cut them down and I put CDs in them. So just for those new people that don't know that about me, I'll leave a link in the description. Okay, LSU fan, what are your tattoos about? All right, we're 30 minutes into this. Let's see if I can fit this in. And I kind of thought my arms were going to fit in the screen, but they're not so much. So they're themed. I can't really show it on here, but they are mirrors of each other. There's things that are happening in here that mirror over into this, that sort of stuff. The themes, I've got a daytime and I've got a nighttime. I've got, water and land versus sky. This side is more modern. This side is retro throwback. But they're all things that I love. So I've got the rose that Paul Stanley of Kiss has. I didn't want to get a Kiss tattoo, so I decided to get the same rose that he has to represent my love of that. It's hard to see here, but I've got the flames, which are off of 40 Seasons from Skid Row. Or not 40 Seasons, I forget what they call it, 10 Seasons, I don't remember. But it's their best of, has that flame on it. So I've got that. There's other things that are tied into these. I have mentioned that the background is, sorry, it's a little hard to see here. There you go. This is Roger Dean artwork from Keys to Ascension. So I've got all that kind of stuff, and I mentioned the retro. Again, if you can see it on here, there's a bird. That's the more throwback. It's got the stars in it. Again, more retro style tattooing and things like that. As an architect, I've got a Mobius strip. Anyone that's an architect will understand that, or you math geniuses out there. And then I've got some stitching on the arm that comes from Nightmare Before Christmas and my love of that. It's sort of a patchwork like Sally's dress. And again, if you can see this here, and again, I'm sorry if it's a little odd the way I'm showing it. You see the mirror of the flames? Anyway, there you go. Maybe one time I'll try and do a better video where I can set up the camera and show it for those that might be interested. But there you go, give you a little bit of an idea and a little bit more about me. So I've gotten asked that a lot, so kind of glad I'm able to show that to you guys. Rick and Lynette Rivera ask, can you list the pros and cons of New York versus New Jersey? This is the last question here, so we're wrapping things up. New York is loud, it's busy, it's packed, it's crammed. I'm not saying that's all bad stuff, but New Jersey is not, at least in parts that I've moved to. There's certainly parts of New Jersey that are just as dense as New York, but I moved to an area that is more neighborhood, suburban, spread out, big yard, that kind of stuff. That's why I did the move. I needed more quiet in my life. Being a music listener, I don't want to hear the outside sirens and construction and people yelling and screaming and the guy next door booming his stereo and whatnot. So I bought a house to get away from all of that. New York has access to anything you want. Culture, media, concerts, I mean, just whatever, it's there. I'm a big person. I love the arts, museums, sculpture, photography, beautiful parks. I mean, there's just no other city in the world like New York City. A lot of positives about New York City. New Jersey, on the other hand, doesn't have all that, but it does have what I'm looking for at this point, which is that more community-based, neighborhood-based, good neighbors, that kind of stuff. And I still work in New York City. So I have access to all that. I go into the city for my job, and then I come home and I get away from it all. So I sort of found a happy medium between the two and just decided I love New York City, I just can't live in it anymore. Want to experience it, don't want to live in it. But there you go. That is 37 of your questions answered. I hope you had fun. We just spent 37 minutes together answering 37 questions. Kind of interesting there. Thank you all for being a part of my channel. I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for helping me hit that 10,000 subscriber number. Onwards and upwards, right? Keep it going. I'll see you out there. Have a great one, and we'll be talking soon. Bye-bye.